Hey everyone, this is Laura Gadenik with Laura Gadenik Astrology, and I'm here to give you the astrology for the week of June 29th through July 5th, 2020. Okay. So on Monday, June 29th, we have a conjunction between Pluto and Jupiter. This is Pluto right here, and then the other one is Jupiter. You can see this is happening at 24 degrees of Capricorn, and both planets are conjoining while in retrograde motion, meaning that they are moving backwards in the sky. Once again, this isn't actually happening in the sky. It's an optical illusion if we had a telescope, but for the sake of astrological language and symbolism, we say that they're traveling backwards in the sky. And this is the second time that they are joining up in the sky at the same degree. The first time was on April 4th of 2020 at 24 degrees of Capricorn as well. So this is significant because this year, 2020, is like one of the major themes of this year is this conjunction because it's happening 3 times. Like I mentioned, the first time was April 4th. The second time is happening on Monday, the 29th of June. And the third time, the final time, when both planets are moving in a direct motion again, that they will conjoin is November 12th of 2020. And that'll be actually at 22 degrees of Capricorn. So this is the unfolding of a story. Pluto is the planet representing ordeals and the transformations that come from them. Pluto is also a planet about wealth. It's a planet about rot. So thinking about what's beneath the surface. It's either, so when I say rot, it's kind of like what deep systemic problems are lurking beneath the surface, or what's really there. It's getting to the heart of the matter, of any matter. And that could either be, the result of that could be rot or gold. So that's where Pluto's significations with wealth come in, because gold signifies being wealthy. Pluto is a planet signifying death and rebirth, transformation. It's kind of a planet of uncovering. So uncovering what's really there, getting down to the matter, getting to the bottom of things, researching, uncovering, revealing, going through a really intense, painful process. It's usually a pretty painful process, and this is happening for us collectively. But those are just some significations of Pluto. Jupiter is another planet indicating wealth. Jupiter historically represented people of high status, whether that are people who are royal or have friends in high places, who have connections with people of status. Jupiter indicates naturally the royal and the wealthy and the high status. And I mentioned this in a couple videos before, but Jupiter is in Capricorn, which is the sign of its fall, meaning Jupiter doesn't function as well as he would like to in the sign of Capricorn. He struggles to be the planet representing the wealthy and the royal. And Capricorn is a sign all about, it's about a lot of things, right? It is about systems and structures in our lives, including government systems, so that we can function somewhat in an organized way. It also represents, people of authority, like CEOs, leaders of whatever kind, people in charge. But Capricorn also represents people who are on the fringes, the marginalized, the poor, the impoverished, the downtrodden. And so when Jupiter is in the sign of the downtrodden and the impoverished and the poor, those are kind of those are pretty much opposite meanings and are opposite significations. And so this kind of speaks to economic crisis, right? We have the two planets of wealth in Capricorn, Jupiter being in Capricorn, indicating economic crisis. And actually, you know, last time Jupiter was in Capricorn was 12 years ago in 2008, which is when we had our last economic crisis. So, you know, we can kind of, Jupiter takes about a year in every sign. So in another 12 years, we'll have Jupiter back in Capricorn. But it's, you know, it's pretty rare that we'll have Jupiter and Pluto in the same sign, or in Capricorn specifically, because Pluto moves extremely slowly, takes about 15 to 20 years to move through a sign. But anyway, my point is that these two planets in Capricorn indicate economic crisis. I mean, that's not a huge surprise to anyone. And this is, of course, happening collectively across, definitely in the US and you know, definitely in the world, but with COVID-19. You know, another thing this could represent is, I mean, with the economic crisis, the Trump administration had to, or decided to give an extra $600 per week to those who were unemployed or who got on unemployment. And so this is, I mean, I know that's not a lot to a lot of people, but it is a lot of money to a lot of people. And ironically, a lot of people are making more money from unemployment than they were from their regular job. So in a way, Jupiter is benefiting, right? Benefiting the poor, the impoverished, the kind of the people who are struggling to survive. So that's an interesting signification. And finally, Jupiter also represents laws and our justice system in general. And, you know, with Jupiter conjoining with Pluto, the planet of ordeals and transformations that come from them, the planet of death and rebirth, you know, this is really a time where our laws and our justice system is going through a time of death and rebirth, so to speak. And not only that, but there's an uncovering process. There's a feeling of, let's get to the bottom of this. You know, is this really truth? Is this really justice? Are these laws actually just? And are they supporting the people, right? Especially with the Black Lives Matter movement, with the killing, with the recent killings of Black people, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, a few more. You know, there's been a call for justice, for true justice. There's been a call for stripping the system clean, so to speak, and kind of starting over and implementing new laws, getting rid of the rot, getting rid of the old, uncovering the truth of the matter. Pluto, you can kind of hear the language in there, and you know, implementing a more truer and a truer justice system that benefits more people and that actually protects the impoverished and the disenfranchised. So this is very much so what this Pluto Jupiter conjunction is revealing and is kind of reflecting that's happening right now in our world. So just kind of pointing out that's kind of ongoing, and on Monday, the 29th of June, it's kind of a heightened pinnacle, so to speak. And I just wanted to point out as well that the last time we had this conjunction on April 4th, that's around the time when we had the government bailout money and when the Trump administration decided to give the additional $600 per week for unemployment benefits. So there could be like something else. I'm not saying that there will be, but a possible manifestation of this is like another bailout sort of thing, or maybe extension of unemployment, or something like that. I mean, it's definitely not guaranteed because the planets are moving retrograde, so they're not, maybe as like they're not moving forward. They might not be as helpful, or they might just be kind of manifesting in a totally different way. But it's just an idea and a possibility. But yeah, essentially it's revealing the rot of the powerful and the royal and our systems of law and justice. So it's a pretty big moment. And like I said, the next time this will be happening is November 12th, when the planets will be moving in a forward direction. And also, if you have any personal planets at 24 degrees of Capricorn especially, or also 24 degrees of Cancer up here, 24 degrees of Aries, or 24 degrees of Libra, you will be feeling this energy very strongly in your personal life. And it really depends on what planet is conjoining, or what planet is making the aspect to these planets, and what that planet rules in your chart to bring up specific topics. But if you do have a personal planet in around 22 to 26 degrees of Capricorn, Cancer, Libra, or Aries, chances are this is a huge transformational time for you, possibly very painful and challenging. But it's just kind of part of the process. It's going to be there all year. If you're interested in learning more about that, I do chart readings for people. So let me know if that's of interest to you. So yes, okay. So the next thing that's happening this week is on Tuesday. And Tuesday we have Mercury and the Sun up here conjoining in Cancer. So you can see Mercury is retrograde. I believe this signifies the halfway point of Mercury's retrograde cycle. So we're halfway there. And whenever any planet comes into conjunction with the Sun, it's almost like that planet gets to hear kind of like a secret from the Sun. If we think of the Sun as the king, and representing the king in ancient astrology, it's kind of like someone being right up next to the king's ear and being whispered a secret, or being whispered kind of divine knowledge or divine understanding. And so this could be a time where you have some sort of insight around whatever it is you're currently reflecting, reviewing, rethinking, or thinking about redoing. Because remember, Mercury is the planet of our minds and how we communicate and exchange ideas and information with others, and it's our attitudes and how we communicate. And in retrograde, we will be getting a chance to do something over once Mercury turns direct and moves back over these same degrees. So right now we're in a rethinking, reviewing, reflecting process of maybe there's something that I've been getting involved with or thinking about over the past week and a half or so that I don't actually want to be involved in, or I don't know what I think, I don't know what I want. So this is the time, this is the process of really like not taking much action, but kind of reviewing and rethinking things. And there could be possible element of like confusion around what you want, So this is some juicy insight around whatever it is that you're reviewing or rethinking. And this will definitely depend on what house this is happening in for you, because that will contextualize what exactly it is you're rethinking or you're reviewing or you're kind of processing right now. There's some significations that will be general for everyone because it's happening in Cancer. Cancer is the sign of mother, hearth, home, family, women, tribe. In general, Cancer is a sign about security. Where do I feel secure? How do I feel secure? So these are maybe some themes that could be coming up for you right now during this Mercury retrograde process, and especially since the Sun is in Cancer as well. And at the same time, Mercury will be making a sextile to Uranus and Taurus. Sextiles are 60 degrees between two planets, and they provide ease and kind of opportunity. It's two planets helping each other out. And Uranus is the great innovator, the freedom seeker, the revolutionary, the revelation. So this could be, having some sort of innovative, original idea, and that being very helpful in helping you to decide or gather more information about whatever it is that you're reprocessing right now. So it's really just, you could totally miss this aspect where it's not going to provide you with any conflict or anything to overcome. So you might just kind of miss it or not even notice it, but it is a helpful influence. Okay. The next thing that's happening this week astrologically is on Wednesday, July 1st, and Saturn, I guess maybe it's happening, it's either July 1st or July 2nd. I realized I totally forgot to change my time zone. I have this set for Spartanburg, South Carolina, which is where I'm from originally, but I'm in Salt Lake City, Utah right now, so there might be like a day or two, but I mean, either way, it doesn't matter too much. But we have Saturn finally entering Capricorn again. You can kind of see 29 degrees of Capricorn. Every sign has 30 degrees in it, so when a planet enters a sign via retrograde, it'll go back to 29 degrees of the previous sign. And this is a pretty big deal. I mean, so we had Saturn first enter Aquarius back in, when was it? It was like April 4th, I believe, is when Saturn first entered Aquarius. And, oh wait, sorry, no, it was March 20th. March 20th was the last time that Saturn was in Capricorn, and Saturn entered Aquarius on March 21st of this year, 2020. And, as you can probably think back to that time, that was right when we were first hearing about the coronavirus. That's right when all of the outbreaks were happening, when the lockdown happened. That was a pretty intense time. And so, Saturn moving backwards into Capricorn, we're kind of retracing our steps, backtracking a little bit so that eventually we can do things again. So Saturn will remain in Capricorn until December of 2020. I can't remember the exact date, but at some point in December of 2020 is when Saturn will go back into Aquarius. And Saturn in general is a sign about fear, integrity, commitment, challenges, setbacks. It's the planet that makes us work extra hard to achieve whatever it is that we are wanting to achieve. I mean, it can really feel like a heavy weight on our shoulders. It's the planet of depression, another planet signifying death and decay because it's the Lord of Winter. It's a planet about accountability. It's a planet about traditionalism and time and age and what's been done before. I talked a little bit about Capricorn being about systems and structures and government and the much marginalized, those on the fringes of society. Capricorn is also a planet about winter and cold and death because of the time of year. This is in the Northern Hemisphere, this is January. This is the beginning of winter. So it's a colder sign. And, what do we do in that time of year? We're really thinking ahead, we're preparing, we're conserving, we're trying to make it through the winter, really, to survive. We don't have, it's not there's no lushness of crops growing in our backyard or in the garden around this time. It's okay, let's hunker down, let's create a plan, a system to get through the winter. Let's conserve, protect, and get through this, you know? And so there can be an element of fear associated with Capricorn for that very reason, related to the seasons. So Saturn going back into Capricorn could indicate kind of another sense of rising fear, or fear returning in some way. And this can also be, this will also depend on where this is in your chart. You know, where is Capricorn in your personal birth chart? What house is it in? And that will help determine kind of where these fears might lie, or where fears might be returning. So like I mentioned before, so Saturn is a planet of time and age, and kind of what's been done, what's traditional, but Capricorn is that as well. And they're the same because Saturn rules over the sign of Capricorn. Saturn also rules over Aquarius. So Saturn can also be very much so associated with, you know, creating new rules that work for everyone, progressivism, you know, high-minded ideals, and you know, thinking about the future more than the past. It could also be a planet signifying dogmatism. Aquarius can be pretty dogmatic in its ideals of what's best for society. But Capricorn definitely has, I would say it's more associated with Saturn in terms of rulership. And so Saturn returning to Capricorn, there can definitely be a sense of kind of relying on what's always been done. You know, Saturn has been in Aquarius for these past couple months. We've been forced as a country to really invite and try out some new, like some new things, you know, like some, with coronavirus and with the mass amount of unemployment, the government had to give us you know, an extra $600 per week in unemployment. You know, they had to expand their unemployment program. They had to give people money. They had to do all of these things to make sure that we didn't totally collapse. And you know, that those things could be described as very Aquarian, right? But Saturn moving back into Capricorn is kind of this, the sense I'm getting is this kind of idea of returning to what's always been done, returning to what's traditional, returning to you know, fear is one way to think of it, returning to kind of a fear-based mindset. You know, again, it could also be about accountability and integrity, and people taking accountability or being forced to take accountability as well. That's very Capricornian as well. And with Jupiter and Pluto there, and Jupiter being leaders and laws and justice, this could definitely be part of the story of people in power, like being forced to take accountability, right? And that we could definitely see that from now until the end of the year. That could be a huge theme. So just to kind of, yeah, those are just some themes for Saturn moving back into Capricorn. Once Saturn moves back into Aquarius at the end of the year, some of these, we might kind of be faced with possibly similar situations that will force us to be more progressive, or kind of think outside of the box, or do things differently, or you know, really thinking about taking care of society, you know, thinking about new ways to care for everyone, care for the outcast, care for the marginalized, rather than, you know, relying on old systems and old ways that we've always done. So just some food for thought there. Okay, finally on, yeah, it'll be July 4th, but it's like July 4th in the evening, possibly the morning of the 5th. We have a full moon lunar eclipse happening in Capricorn, because that's where the moon is. Of course, the full moon is when the moon is opposite the sun. The moon is totally reflecting the sun's light. This is usually a time of culmination, of peaks, of pinnacles, of things coming to a head, maybe being a little bit chaotic. Eclipses in general are times of great change. Often it can be unexpected or very uncomfortable. So be aware and kind of be ready for that. Once again, this change could occur in the Cancer, Capricorn houses of your personal chart. So if you know which houses are Capricorn and Cancer, that'll give you a clue as to the area of life these changes are going to be occurring in. I mentioned this, I think, last week in a video on eclipses I did, but eclipses are not times for manifesting, for setting intentions, for, you know, doing any intention setting. It's a time of release, of rest, of getting rid of stuff, of cleansing, of serving. So just keep that in mind. And you might even feel really exhausted around this time. I mean, I know that after the June 21st eclipse in Cancer, I was so exhausted. I felt like I was just totally detoxing, and it was really challenging for me to get done the things that I needed to get done. So just give yourself, I would suggest, give yourself the whole day and a couple days after. Don't schedule too much during this time, or try not to, because they're pretty potent times. And this is specifically happening at 13 degrees of Capricorn. So once again, if you have planets around 13 degrees of Capricorn or even of Cancer, it'll be especially potent for you. And lunar eclipses, you know, eclipses in general, like I said, indicate changes, but lunar eclipses indicate changes usually involving endings of some kind, whereas solar eclipses are changes that involve major beginnings. So just kind of keep that in mind as well. Oh, and last thing, eclipses can take up to 6 months from the time of the eclipse to kind of take shape in your life, or for the change to kind of take form. So yeah. Okay. So that's pretty much it for the week. Let me know if you have any questions, and I hope this was somewhat informative and helpful. And I hope you have a great week. So I'll be back next week. Bye.